It's a long journey from this to this. And this journey still is not done, because this image represents only 7.45 hours of integration on a DSO that I am sure needs at least 12 hours of imaging time. And right now, with these northern heart of summer nights being so short, getting the remaining 5 hours or so that I need is a process that's going to take at least 2 or 3 more clear summer nights. And who knows how long I'll have to wait for all of that to fall into place. Could be tomorrow, could be a month or so. But every few hours of integration, I like to develop out what I have and see where an image now stands, because I'd never use tools such as SNR measurements to see if an image is done. I'll have to make a video on why one of these days, but it's not really what this video is about. Today, rather, we're going to take a close look at color development. A lot of viewers of my channel and of my AstroBin ask, how do I manage to get the color that I do in my images? They often remark that the colors in my images look more natural than they're used to seeing, and that the interplay and cross-shading of the colors is far more complex than they're used to seeing in astrophotos. Well, as far as the complexity and interplay of color, I can say that results because I have the good fortune to live at a dark sky site, so I can shoot pretty much exclusively in LRGB. The red, green, and blue filters of an LRGB filter set can capture the full visible range of light, whereas the various narrowband filters so many astrophotographers have to use these days to deal with the problem of light pollution only capture slivers of any color range of light. So shooting in LRGB, or even RGB, or even with a one-shot color camera where you have to take it out to a dark sky site, will inevitably give you a greater range of color and color complexity than you can get with narrowband. But whether working with information from LRGB filters or narrowband filters, there is nonetheless the challenge of developing that color information. Color within the signal can be faint, and it can be tinted with hues that we do not find pleasant. So knowing how to pull color from an image, develop and enhance it and transform it are, I think, among the most useful skills any astrophotographer can cultivate. Now, I won't lie to you, working with colors is complicated, and as I just noted, it's also counterintuitive. But I like my videos to be practical and applicable, so I'm going to try to avoid the unnecessary complications of color theory, and we'll just focus on the practical side of color development. So in this episode, we're going to really focus on the application of 2 very powerful tools for the enhancement and transformation of color, the Levels tool and the Channel Mixer. On the outside, these 2 tools look simple, but they are extremely powerful and subtly nuanced, and in truth, it took me about a year to really wrap my head around how to use them. But they are so important, they form the foundation of good color development, enhancement, and transformation. And when used together, they form a powerfully synergistic duo that can accomplish almost any transformation and enhancement you might need to do to color in middle stage developing. Of course, there are other tools that are very important in the color development process, but in this video, we'll focus on these, and in the next video on color development, we'll look at the others. Now, the techniques I'm going to cover today using the Levels and Channel Mixer tools can be applied to any color image, whether it was shot with a one-shot color camera, or through a monochrome camera using RGB or LRGB filters, or even narrowband filters. However, you're going to get the richest color and the widest range of possibilities if you either shoot in RGB, LRGB, or with a one-shot color camera, because they provide the full range of visible color information. Since I work in LRGB and do my initial stacking and master's preparation in PixInsight, the first step in preparing my information for color management is color balancing them with some PixInsight tools. Good initial color balancing is essential because it gives the widest range of possibilities. On the screen right now, you see my LRGB masters of NGC 7000, a region of sky I call the chasm. Top left to right, they are luminance in red, and lower left to right, they are green and blue. Early minimal essential processing has been run on the images. Blur Exterminator has been run on all 4 images, both in the correct mode and the standard mode, to correct any slight problems there may have been in the stars and sharpen the images. And then the star alignment tool is run on them to make sure that the R, G, and B plates are perfectly aligned with the luminance plate. And now we're into the first step of my color balancing process. The first step is to run the RGB plates through the statistics tool and find the plate with the highest median. In this case, the red plate has the highest median. Then I open the linear fit tool. This is a very old tool for color balancing, and what it does is it brings the 3 color plates information in relative balance with one another, so that if one of the plates has a little bit better or stronger information than the others, it doesn't predominate the 3 plates when they are put together to make a single color image, leaving the image with a single overwhelming color that would then have to be removed from the image to get proper color. Like for example, if you shoot with a one-shot color camera, you know that when you first process your images, your deep sky objects come out with a green cast. And that's because 50% of the RGB information captured with a one-shot color camera happens in green. There's an imbalance. Well, linear fit just balances out the 3 color channels so that when you combine your RGB plates together, you get a balanced color image. In this case, the statistics tool reveals that the red plate has the highest median. Let's go ahead real quick and combine all 3 RGB plates together without running linear fit on them in order to demonstrate what would happen if the color channels were not balanced together first. To do this, I'll just open the channel combination tool and drag in the unbalanced RG and B plates each into their respective slot and click the circular action icon to combine all 3 plates together. We get this plate here where red predominates the image entirely. That imbalanced red could be removed, but at the expense of the information in the image. It's best just to make sure the color information within the image is balanced before combining them, and we can quickly and reliably do that with the old linear fit tool. I know PixInsight now has its spectrophotometric color calibration and some new tool on top of that. I honestly don't like them. I find I never get really good color when I use those tools. The old linear fit tool to this very day is my absolute favorite. It provides excellent results with 100% reliability. And as far as I'm concerned, it's still the gold standard for getting good color out of your masters. So, the statistics tool has revealed that the red plate has the highest median. I'll now open the linear fit tool and drag the tab from the red plates into the reference image slot on the linear fit tool, and then drag the triangle on its side action icon onto the blue and green plates, and the linear fit tool will color balance their information. Once that's done, I'll open the channel combination tool and drag the red tab into the red slot, the green tab in the green slot, the blue tab in the blue slot, and run the channel combination tool by pressing the circular icon. This combines the information from all 3 plates together to yield a balanced RGB plate. And from that, we get proper balanced color, which you can see right here. Now this is only the RGB information. It lacks the tremendous amount of luminance and fine detail information to be found on the luminance plate, but we'll add that later. Now, I've designated the new RGB plates as RGB simply by double-clicking on the tab and typing in the new name. Now to get good star color, we'll prepare an RGB star plate. To do this, I'll clone the new image simply by clicking and dragging on its tab and then letting go. This will create a clone of the original RGB image. Now, right now the image has not been histogram stretched. We are just seeing the screen transfer function acting on the image to create a false histogram stretch so that we can work with the image. But I like how the screen transfer function affects the stars. I always have. So I'm going to set the screen transfer function stretch permanently into the cloned image. And it's easy. I'll just open the histogram tool and the screen transfer function tool. Then click on the RGB cloned image so that the screen transfer function tool shows its stretch. Then drag the triangular action icon from the screen transfer function tool over onto the lower bar of the histogram stretch tool, which transfers that histogram stretch into the histogram tool. Then I'll drag the triangular action icon from the histogram tool onto the RGB clone image, which permanently sets in its stretch. The image will momentarily turn white because now it has the temporary screen transfer function stretch plus the new permanent screen transfer function stretch. And I'll hit F12 to remove the temporary stretch. This shows us what the image would look like with a proper stretch. Then I'll run the noise exterminator on the clone to clean up noise and give the best stars possible. And then finally, the star exterminator. When running the star exterminator on this image, always make sure unscreened stars is checked because the image has been histogram stretched. And I always click large overlap. It takes a little bit longer, but it gives better results. It's only a few seconds, maybe a minute longer. And to get better results, it's well worth it. And then finally, on the star exterminator, make sure the generate image option is clicked. Otherwise, the stars will be removed, but you won't end up with a star plate. Once the star plate has been removed from the cloned image, I'll save it as a 16-bit lossless TIFF to add back to the image much later on in layer-based photo editing. But the key thing for our color management to remember here is that to get stars with good color, extract your RGB stars. This is especially important if you're working with LRGB information. Extract your RGB stars before the luminance information is added back. You'll get stars with the most intense color that way. Because the addition of the luminance information, well, it's very bright and it has a tendency to wash the star color out. Now the problem with this is that RGB information collection is not nearly as efficient as luminance information collection. The luminance channel on a monochrome camera is 300% more efficient. So by deriving a star plate only from RGB stars, you're going to lose some of the dimmer stars. However, there's a way to get them back and enhance the brightness or sparkliness of your stars and tighten the stars all at once. It's based on a new technique that I've devised for adding star plates back to images. However, it's beyond the scope of this video on color management, so we'll look at it in the next video. Now, we're going to save the star plates as a 16-bit lossless TIFF, and we're going to discard the starless image because it was stretched with a screen transfer function, which has an overly steep, contrasty effect on images. It looks nice at first, but it sets too high a black point, and the steeply curved light curve is just not very good for developing in a layer-based photo editor. We'll discard that and then run the star exterminator again on the original RGB plate, this time with the unscreen and generate star image checkboxes checked off, because the histogram has not yet been stretched on the original RGB information, so you don't want to use the unscreen option, nor do we want the stars that will result from the star extermination. We just want the unstretched pure RGB information. Once the star exterminator has completed running, we're going to stretch the original RGB information using my evolved stretching method. This will yield a flat, low-contrast final image that doesn't look great in PixInsight, but is ideal for development in a layer-based photo editor because it retains more information. We'll reset the histogram stretching tool, then drag the RGB tab into the histogram tool's view slot so we can see the RGB image's light curve. And in the zoom boxes up above, I'm going to set the vertical for 20, and then scroll down to the base of the light curve. This will allow us to see better where the light curve separates from the base. Now, on the part I call the stretching bar, there are 3 icons, one far left, one middle, one right, here, and here. I never touch the one on the far right. That essentially sets the white point, and there's no benefit in changing it. Open up a preview window, then grab the middle icon and drag it to the left into the innermost part of the right side of the light curve. You don't have to worry just yet about being too precise. Then grab the left icon and drag it to the rightmost curve on the left side of the light curve. In this case, that's the blue channel. Observe the curved line that comes out of the left icon and position that curved line so it intersects the light curve at the imaginary point halfway between the bottom and the first line. Then scroll over to the middle icon and drag it to the insidemost part of the right side of the light curve. Once again, that's the blue channel. Set the icon so that it points to where the innermost channel intersects the first horizontal line. And that's it. You now have an evolved stretch. This produces a flat, low-contrast image that is ideal for developing in a layer-based photo editor. This method is easy, fast, and reliable, working nearly 100% of the time. If you want to learn more about it, check out my video, Perfect Histograms in 60 Seconds Evolved. There is a link in the description. Now the next thing I'm going to do in real life is prepare my luminance plate. Very similar to this, though of course I won't be doing any color balancing because luminance plates don't have color. However, that's beyond the scope of this video. In this video, we are focusing on color balancing. So we're going to jump over to Affinity Photo now, where I prefer to do my layer-based photo editing. Alright, I have Affinity Photo opened, and I'm going to drag first the RGB plate and then the luminance plate into it. I have the snap tool on, and I'm going to drag the luminance plate right above the RGB plate and set its composite mode for luminosity, which is really the ideal composite mode for luminance information to RGB information, at least in Affinity Photo. It adds all the high frequency information, all the luminance information, while respecting bright and dark areas to avoid over-contrasting or blowing areas out. Once they're added together, I'm going to select one of the layers and select Merge Visible. This will composite or permanently combine the luminance to the RGB information, giving an information-rich image that combines all the color, light and shadow, and detail information contained in both the low and high frequency components. Then I'm going to group the original luminance and RGB information together, dub the group ORIG for original, and make it invisible. We don't need it anymore. Now, the combined RGB information is in that visible layer above called Pixel. I'm going to run the frequency separation tool to divide out the low frequency from the high frequency component. High frequency is where detail is, and low frequency is where color and light and shadow are found. Separating the components like this allows us to push the developing further, maximizing the qualities of each kind of information while minimizing the risk of creating artifacts that would occur because of using tools for low or high frequency information that is incompatible with the other information. Now, we already have a lot of good detail here, but as you can see, the color is faded, and it's also skewing somewhat into the green. Now, I know a lot of people think that there's no green in space, and that's nonsense. this green is here because it's here. It's literally here. We are seeing the image in LRGB as presented by a monochrome camera. The green that's there is actually there. The reality is there's plenty of green in space. I think the myth that there's no green in space might emerge because there are no green stars, and that's true. However, stars emit plenty of green light. It's just in the way our brains perceive color, that light gets translated into other colors because they also emit plenty of red and blue light. However, the way I look at it is that because color is a perception of the human mind, it's fair to interpret color. For example, if a dog, which does have color vision, it's just different from ours, looked at our images, they would perceive entirely different color schemes. And the same if our images were looked at by an owl or an eagle. Birds actually have much finer color perception than humans do, because while our eyes have 3 color receptors, their eyes have 4. They probably perceive colors we can't even imagine. And even going from one person to the next, color is subjective. One person doesn't perceive color in the exact same way as the next person. So because color is a subjective interpretation, I'm going to take the liberty of interpreting its appearance in this image. In fact, what I'm going to do is emphasize the appearance of the reds and the blues, and use the green to transform or deepen the reds and brighten the blues to a brilliant cerulean color, the same as a clear summer sky here on Earth. Affinity Photo has many powerful color management tools, but one of the most powerful is the much underappreciated Levels tool, a tool that I use frequently in developing. The Levels tool allows you to select between a master channel, which affects all the color channels together, or your discrete RGB channels. You can use the black level and white level slider bars to lift your black point or lower your white point, which is very useful because lifting the black point establishes a minimum level for information to appear. This has many uses, among which it's a great way to drown choppiness and noise out of an image. And lifting the white point can brighten an image, though of course it runs some risk of blowing out an image, but you'd have to be pretty haphazard with it to do that. If you lift the white point on a specific color channel, it brightens the appearance of that color, making it more predominant within an image, allowing you to shift color balance within an image. And if you lift the white point on the master channel, it brightens all the individual colors in harmony, maintaining your color balance. If you shift the gamma slider right, it tightens the white point and the black point while steepening the light curve, augmenting colors, intensifying their divisions, which emphasizes contrast and detail, and sharpening up darks to different shade levels as well as whites against other white levels. The output black level slider lifts the appearance of blacks, so that some black level information that was lost can be restored to the image, and the output white level slider lowers the whites, which is useful for restoring information in bright areas that might have been lost due to clipping. The ability to do all of this graphically and accurately from the Levels tool makes it singularly the most powerful color and brightness management tool at your disposal. Alright, let's put it to use and I'll show you what I mean. I'll begin by opening a Levels tool in the low frequency information where color and light are. In the drop down box on the Levels tool, I'll select blue, and then raise the white level on blue a few percent, which you're going to see is going to immediately brighten the blue across the entire image. And I want to steepen the blue curve to increase the differences in how it appears across the image, which will help to distinguish detail, so I'll raise the gamma. As you can see, this also pulls the influence of blue out of the darker areas. That way, all of our shaded regions don't look like they're shaded in blue light. Now, good images are built in layers, one thin layer at a time. I've occasionally been accused of splitting hairs when it comes to the creation of images, but if you put enough hairs together, you get a pelt. And I'm a firm believer that an image is like a painting made of thousands of brush strokes, and for photographers and astrophotographers, those brush strokes come from how we adjust the tools. Making lots of small changes allows us to make very fine adjustments. So I'm going to move from the Levels tool to the channel mixer, which allows one to make very fine adjustments to the balance of color. And by placing the channel mixer tool over the blue Levels tool, we can make very fine adjustments to how all the colors interplay with the blue adjustments we've just made. Now, like the Levels tool, the channel mixer tool is exceedingly powerful, but it's quite counterintuitive, far more so than the Levels tool. It approaches color from the position that the 3 primary colors, red, green, and blue, are each comprised of 3 primary colors. So if you select the red channel from the drop-down menu, you'll see the red channel gives you the option of changing red, green, and blue slider bars. But if you understand anything about color theory, you know that red, green, and blue are 3 primary colors, at least according to this additive color scheme. Primary colors are colors that exist in and of themselves. They do not require other combinations of colors to exist. So, for example, in the red channel, how on earth can there be an interplay of green and blue? Well, I find the best way to conceptualize the way the channel mixer tool works is like this. If you select the red channel, you can intensify the appearance of red in regions where it's predominant, and add to or reduce the interplay of what green and blue there is in those areas. If you select the green channel, you can intensify or downplay the interplay of green in those areas where it's predominant, and add to or take away from the interplay of red and blue channels. And the same with the blue channel. If you select the blue channel, you can intensify or demote the intensity of blue within areas where blue is predominant, and add to or take away from the predominance of the red and green channels. It still takes some practice. I know it's counterintuitive. Honestly, it took me months to really wrap my head around the channel mixer tool, but once you do, it's extraordinarily powerful, as you're about to see. For example, I'm about to do more work in the red channel, and I'm going to lift the red, which is going to intensify the appearance of red in the reddish regions of the image, and in those areas where it shows up strongly but fainter, it's going to raise the red, giving those areas a bit of a golden cast, adding a bit to the diversity and the subtle shading of color within this image. And as if that were not counterintuitive enough, what it means is by using the channel mixer tool to adjust the red after using the levels tool to increase the blue, it allows me to get more intense blues and more intense reds all at the same time. I'm going to use the channel mixer tool to push the colors in the direction that I want them to go, darker reds and brighter cerulean blues. Once I have the adjustments where I want them, I'll open another levels tool and place it over the channel mixer layer so that it builds on the changes that have already been made. As I work, I'll keep making small changes with each new tool, adding it to the previous layer to build toward the colors that I want. And with this new opening of the levels tool, what I'm going to focus on is adjusting the green. So now let's open the levels tool, and this time I'm going to address green. Green is a particularly important color because even very small changes in green will strongly impact the appearance of red and blue throughout the image. Raising green or brighten blues, transforming them from a dark color to a bright cerulean or azure color, like a perfectly clear sky on a high summer day. Whereas lowering greens will darken and intensify reds. In the end, I'll increase the white level of the green to brighten it, and then increase the gamma level just a little bit to tighten up its light curve, reducing its appearance in the shadowed area so the shadows don't turn green, and reducing its appearance in bright areas so that they do not blow out, which preserves the detail concealed within those bright areas. And now, back to the channel mixer tool. As before, I'll place the next channel tool layer over the previous levels layer, the one where I just adjusted the green. I want to deepen and intensify the appearance of red in the lower region of this image, and in the lightly shaded fringing all around the right and upper portion of this image. This will add some lovely, delicate shading to the image. And I want to further intensify and brighten the appearance of blue as I slowly transform the blue into cerulean. To do this, I'll select the red channel from the drop-down menu. Intensify the red to 136% and demote the blue by -21%. Then I'll switch to the blue channel and reduce red by -30%, reducing the prominence of interplay in the bluer regions of the image, but increasing the prominence of blue on the blue channel by 3% and the prominence of green by 20%. This significantly brightens and intensifies the appearance of blue within the image. We still don't have the cerulean yet that I'm looking for, but if I were to go straight away for that cerulean, it would come at the cost of transforming the red into a yellowish or orangish color. Building the color layer by layer like this allows for specific color development, in particular getting a deep ruby red while also obtaining that cerulean blue, colors wherein the balancing normally would contradict one another. I did notice after doing this adjustment that the channel mixer tool for some reason had appeared above the low frequency layer. It works there because it's still above the previous 3 adjustment layers, but I'm going to drag it beneath the low frequency layer directly into the layer stack and make sure that it's placed above the last levels tool. The placement of the layers is very important. Each layer affects the layer below it. So if the layers go in out of order, they'll have different effects from what you are looking for. Now we're going to open another levels tool and this time operate on the red channel. And I'm going to raise the red-white level just 5% to brighten but intensify the appearance of red throughout the image. And as with the last tool, when I'm done, I'll have to drag the tool to the top of the layer stack within the low frequency area. Now, I almost have the colors where I want them. I don't think I need to use the channel mixer tool again. Instead, I'll open up another levels tool and make fine adjustments to the black and white levels and the gamma of each color to get as close as possible to the color balance I'm looking for. I should add, I'm not looking for final color here. I won't be able to obtain the final color that I'm looking for in an application that is not color adjustment focused like Affinity Photo. Affinity Photo is a layer-based photo editor. It's extremely powerful for many edit functions, but there are other applications that specialize in color adjustment. And one of those applications is Photolab 8, which we'll switch to shortly. So as you can see, I've opened the Levels tool, and I'm now operating on the master channel, which controls the RG and B in sync. And here I'll raise the white level to 89%, which will brighten all the appearance of color across the board. I want to localize and intensify the appearance of blue, making it brighter in the predominantly blue areas, but pulling it back somewhat from the darker shaded areas. So, on the same Levels tool, I'll switch to the blue channel and just raise the gamma just a little bit. Notice how that not only pulls the blue out of the shaded areas, but it intensifies the differences in blue, revealing the detail in the dust, just above the highly detailed red areas, lower center right here. Now I'm going to switch to the green channel and increase its gamma just a little bit also. This will intensify the green channel, which will both brighten our blues, taking them further toward that cerulean, and intensify the appearance of red. Well, I think that's sufficient to show how to use the level and channel mixer tools, as well as demonstrate how powerful they are when working together. But there are also other very powerful color development tools in Affinity Photo. And had I used them in this video, the development process would have been much quicker and much further along toward the target color that we're looking for. However, I think it would also have been a lot more confusing to show everything all at once. And on top of that, once I've pushed the developing as far as I can in Affinity Photo, then I run a final denoising on the image and export it to Photolab 8, where I'll put the finishing touches on the image, further developing the detail, enhancing and transforming color, and bringing out the interplay of shadow and light. It's no simple thing getting ideal color, and it's a bit complicated, but I think the results are worth it, and it's definitely a skill that's worth learning. But in the rest of this new series of videos in color management, we'll take a look at the other key color management tools in Affinity Photo. From there, we'll progress to color management in Photolab 8, and finally, how to make multiple renditions of the same image that each build upon a certain ideal representation of color within an image, then selectively composite those multiple images to create a final image that blend all those strengths together. And as if color management were not complicated enough, it's something of a skill to learn when to use which tool or which technique or which application. I think of it like learning to play a musical instrument, like the fiddle that I've played for many years. You learn to bow one note at a time, then you learn to play scales, and then you learn to play music. One patient step at a time. And so, hopefully this series will be able to answer all those questions you folks have asked me about how I get my color. And in the doing, help you to improve and get more enjoyment from your own astrophotography. As always, thank you for watching, and if you have any thoughts, questions, or observations, please let me know in the comments section below. Now, here at my backwoods homestead, it looks like we have some nice weather coming, so hopefully I can get some more integration time soon on NGC 7000. And wherever you are, I hope your weather is also treating you favorably. Now, get out there and shoot the sky.